I think Bitcoin by this time will have reached about 20% of global purchasing power. So this would imply Bitcoin's market cap in 2031 dollars to be about $250 trillion. It will only feel like north of $1 million per Bitcoin in 2021 dollars, because the dollar will have lost so much of its value by then.
People love numbers and all this, but one of the reasons people want to listen to you right now is everybody wants to know, in 2031, what is your prediction for the price of Bitcoin? That is the only thing that people really care about right now, so they're going to make a decision whether they buy or not. Not on France, not on anything like this, but what does Robert Breedlove see the future, given if history tracks, which it seems to be tracking, what will the price of Bitcoin be in 2031, which is 10 years? So what do you think the future price of Bitcoin might be in 2031? But keep going into your analysis of why we have to keep jumping.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an old saying that says it's harder to stop halfway downhill than to just not go initially. And I think that's what inflation is. Yeah. And this law that we mentioned, this law of accelerating issuance and depreciation related to currency, this is an ancient law. I mean, it's been written about for hundreds and hundreds of years. This is not a joke. This is not something I made up. This is something you can find everywhere, that this pattern repeats. Once countries start down this path, it's very bad, and it's inescapable. You can't turn back. So going into 2031, which, as we left off earlier, I would expect the U.S. money supply to expand from 20 trillion-ish today to about 500 trillion in the next 10 years. I expect global M2 to expand roughly 12x, from around 100 trillion to about 1,250 trillion, 1.25 quadrillion. And the difference there is that a lot of the weaker international currencies will have collapsed into the dollar. So the dollar will actually have grown in purchasing power overall. And I think by this time, so going into 2031, let's say, that Bitcoin will have continued its growth trajectory. It will have played out another one of these price cycles. Possibly its price cycle will have broken and it just gone into a long, slow grind upwards as people realize it's a game of accumulation. And I think Bitcoin by this time will have reached about 20% of global purchasing power. So this would imply Bitcoin's market cap in 2031 dollars to be about $250 trillion. So that's about 1/5 of global M2 stored in Bitcoin. Now, accounting for inflation, that means Bitcoin's market cap in today's dollars would be about 20 trillion. So in 2031 dollars, and this is a very bright line to distinguish, I think Bitcoin by the year 2031 will be north of $12.5 million per Bitcoin.
Jesus.
But
$12.5 million per coin?
$12.5 million, but adjusting for inflation, it will only feel like north of $1 million per Bitcoin in 2021 dollars, because the dollar will have lost so much of its value by then. $12.5 million will spin like $1 million. So that's my prediction for by 2031. And then that's going to clearly have some big impact on fiat currencies, including the dollar.
Well, again, that goes back to Gresham's law, is that the more fake money what you're talking about is when they increase M2 and M3 and all of those stuff they taught me in economics, which I forgot. It's just printing more money. That's all they're doing.
Right.
And so that's what gives Bitcoin and the blockchain technology so much more credibility than the central bank money. Fake money, I call it.
That's right. As I've said in a past episode with you, actually, it's a pyramid scheme.
Oh, God, yes.
When we say printing money, you're not actually creating any new wealth or value.
No.
You're just shifting the claims on existing capital. And you're stealing from those that are dependent on the dollar to hold its value, which are the poor, those living on fixed income, retirees, pensioners. You're stealing from the most economically vulnerable,
right,
and giving to those with access to the freshly printed money.
Right. And look, this is why, my wife and I started the Rich Dad companies. We need financial education. Just as simple as Gresham's law, fake money drives out good money. You have bad money. And our Federal Reserve Bank, the smartest guys on earth, don't fight the Fed. They're printing trillions.
Yeah.
And we have millions of Americans and people all over the world waiting for the stimulus check. We're going to crush them. From your financial background, in my opinion, every time we print money, we just create more poor people. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, what do you have to say about that? We're just creating poor people.
You're 100% correct. And the fact that Jerome Powell can go on national television and say that there's no causation between monetary policy and wealth disparity is a testament to the times we're living in. We are drowning in deception in this world. It's just the whole thing's built on lies. And I would argue, and I think many Bitcoiners would argue, it starts and ends with the money. We have a lie built into our money, right? The paper was once redeemable for gold. That became a lie.
Because we violated Gresham's law. We produced bad money.
That's right.
Throughout history, the Romans did it, Germans did it, Zimbabwe did it, Venezuela's doing it, everybody's doing it. And now we have Bitcoin, blockchain, Ethereum. So that's why, as an old guy, I've got to keep my mind open, and I got to defend the old guy like Peter Schiff, who keeps going back and forth. I'm going to just buy some stupid Bitcoin, Peter. Why argue?
Yeah, it's when we corrupt and violate the trust fabric that connects us, which is money, society unravels. And that is, we have lots of anecdotal evidence of that throughout history. Every time the currency collapses, the civilization collapses. So, and I would argue that it's, clearly I'm very focused on Bitcoin. I don't advocate for other cryptocurrencies. I don't think Ethereum is going to be a big deal, or as big of a deal as Bitcoin. I think gold, it's a 5,000-year-old technology, will only be disrupted once, and that is by Bitcoin. And that's what we're going to see play out over the next 10 years. So with Bitcoin by 2031, north of $12.5 million per coin, it's equal to about 20% of the global purchasing power. So it's about half the dollar's value in total. But again, the dollar will have increased, according to the law of accelerating issuance and depreciation. Its issuance rate will have increased, I'm predicting, to north of 145% by the early 2030s. This would be early stage hyperinflation. Or you could say actually probably medium stage hyperinflation. Typically a currency won't last more than a few years under that growth.
This is the infamous Weimar Republic, which led to the rise of Adolf Hitler.
That's right. Every dictator, every internment camp, every world war in human history was funded by fiat currency.
Right.
Because those individuals were not limited to the bounds of their own balance sheet. They could use fiat currency to steal the savings from the entire society and just keep going to war until everyone's broke.